how to communicate through email, how to communicate in person, what are some of the areas that you need to focus on when you're communicating, how to communicate effectively, when you're in front of an audience, how to identify your audience. That is a huge communication policy. It will cover media. It will cover everything that you can think of around communication. The media policy is also going to be updated. Because that I know was one of the areas that the communications team was asking us to take a look at. The media policy is going to be updated as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. Hopefully April, you will see a lot of this rolling out. But yeah, we're very, very busy in HR.
Yeah, can I make a follow-up question?
Of course.
So you said there was a committee that chose Dr. Johnson and Paul to create the communications.
The chiefs. This came up within a conversation we were having with the chiefs about how we communicate professionally with each other. And so we decided, because of some of the things that you said, that when you say something, someone takes it a different way, and part of that whole the ideology behind effective communication is intent and perception.
Absolutely.
Those are the only two, intent and perception. And so we train and we develop our policies based on that,
So just to be clear, just so I understand, because, I'm thinking Commissioner Roy had asked earlier about making sure that we see all the policies, making sure that, we're okay with them. But the policy that was developed for this communication
it's a part.
Can we see it? Are we allowed to see that?
Absolutely. Okay. You will definitely see it.
Yeah.
Right now, I think, and I don't know if Paul is here, but hi, Paul. But the deadline, I don't think Dr. Johnson is here though, right? So the idea behind it, we already sort of vetted that internally, where we got to this really big policy, which is awesome. And now the chiefs and directors were taking a look at this policy to kind of review it, to add their final comments, and then it will go into final draft form. The deadline for doing that, I believe, was March 3rd.
Okay.
And so once Paul and Dr. Johnson and I review that policy, then we are looking at the possibility, do we roll this out ahead of the HR policies that are coming, which we haven't had that discussion, and we can have that discussion with Travis. Or do we roll it in, with everything, because we're going to be doing policy interpretation trainings and,
I would just respectfully ask to see it, because when we talk about leadership, we're included as commissioners. And when we talk about communications, a lot of stuff, I personally have dealt with a lot of communications back and forth. I say something, it ends up in the media, completely not true. So if we are creating a communications policy for leadership, that includes us. So I think before it's rolled out, we should look at it to make sure that we also understand what that communication is. But also I'm curious if we're going to have anything related to media within that, even for our own employees.
Yeah. So this is not a leadership policy.
Okay.
This is an organizational policy. So part of the organizational development for the commission, we have organizational policies. This is going to be an organizational policy. This includes everybody.
This is why I'm respectfully asking to see it.
Yeah, this is a global policy.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yes. No.
Yeah, and you will see them. You will see them.
We need that. But when we're talking about,
you'll see all of them.
Yeah.
Because we've also created a policy template that shows the review process and
thank you. I know this is a lot and it's a back and forth, but it's important because when we look at those exit numbers and some of those, some of those lines, it's all communication.
Yeah.
And it's all biasy.
Yeah.
And it's all, generational trauma here at this agency and new trauma that we're causing amongst each other. So to me, it's very important. I'm one commissioner, but it's very important to me that I also am involved in understanding this for our team. That bleeds out into the community, it bleeds out into media, and it bleeds out into all of us. And it's, it's...
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so thank you, and thank you for the time. Chair, thank you for allowing the conversation.
Here in the front row, he's one of those folks in the HCA purgatory. How do we address that with and I want to work with Slay on that. So I want it to be a group team effort, but I want to think outside of the box.
Right. And we have you covered, Commissioner Roy.
What does that mean, Debbie?
We're just, we got you covered. We're gonna get there. This is, we're in the,
because you know.
we're in the foundational stage, right? And I believe I had mentioned earlier, if you recall, I said I had an idea about an approach as to how we can incorporate some of the, equity responses, training, development externally, right? So we have the committee, we have an external facing committee that we can work through. But again, before I say any more about my idea, I really do need to vet it with the ED.
Yes.
Because I don't want to put us,
The Access and Equity group work, the last time they came to this board, I don't know who was on that membership.
Okay.
The last time they did board work was the DEI Research Initiative. Megan
Okay.
and her team came.
Thank you. Yes, that's right. Megan and her team, you're absolutely correct. So either way, Commissioner Roy, I think if you want to be part of that conversation, maybe we can all have that conversation, but so that we all understand it, because when we talk about access and equity and the work that we're doing on one side and then the work that your team is doing.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure, going back to the communications policy, Matt Giancola was also involved. I was running.
Matt, oh yes, thank you,
recognized
Paul.
part of that
Okay.
initial draft.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank
Is
you.
it 3 or 4? 3, thank you.
Don't want anybody to go
Matt?
unrecognized.
Yes.
Matt?
Thanks, Matt.
Matt,
Um,
Matt,
fir-
good done.
First of all, just